I remember sitting in my dorm room one afternoon, staring at my phone ring on the desk in front of me. It was my doctor's office, a routine call. And I just sat there watching it ring and go to voicemail. I felt really disappointed in myself. I should have had the courage to talk to them on the phone. But if you know that feeling of hearing your cell phone ring and watching it go to voicemail, then you already understand what phone anxiety actually is. It isn't just nervousness, it's your entire nervous system telling you that picking up that phone is the most dangerous thing you can do right now. And until you understand why it feels that way, nothing you try is going to change it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why phone calls feel so unbearable when you have social anxiety, and what I did to stop letting them control my life. When I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with social anxiety, and it took everything from me. The friendships, relationships that I could have had, all the things that make life meaningful, were suddenly taken away by something I couldn't understand or wrap my head around. Because of the experience that I went through, I want to walk you through what actually helped me. Not generic advice, but the specific things I did when I was struggling that made phone calls manageable for me again. To begin our conversation, I want to talk to you about why we are scared of talking on the phone. And it isn't for the reason most people assume. Inside of your brain, there's this little almond-shaped section called the amygdala. The amygdala helps us identify danger in our natural environment, whether it's real or imagined. And the interesting thing about the amygdala is that it doesn't just react to physical danger, but social danger as well. When we interpret a social situation as uncertain and potentially negative, we are activating fears that past experiences of humiliation could happen to us again. Phone calls activate this exact same threat response in a very profound way. When you go and you call somebody on the phone, think about what happens. You are speaking to somebody you likely do not know very well. You don't know whether they are going to respond to you in a positive way. You don't know if they are friendly, and you certainly don't know if they're going to be receptive to what you say. In response, your anxiety system begins to activate. If I don't know for sure this person is going to be open to me, why should I be comfortable expressing myself? Because of this, you can't say what you want to say. You get stuck in your head and you lose track of your thoughts. Almost immediately before saying what you even want to get across, you feel embarrassed and exposed. You're left on the phone with someone you barely even know, unable to say what you want to say, and are left in this uncertain, self-conscious state where you want to say something and express your needs, but because of your anxiety, you hold yourself back and feel like the phone call was a disaster. This story that I just said is totally common for someone with social anxiety. And if you've experienced this before, you are not alone. But to help prevent this situation from happening to you again, I want to go a little deeper into why phone calls are making your anxiety unbearable to begin with. When we talk to other people in the real world, our brain has a variety of signals that it uses to ground our body in the conversation. We can read facial expressions and use that information to calibrate how we're coming across. We can read their body language and use that to gauge whether we're connecting with them. We can hear not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it, and use all that information to fill in the gaps of what words alone can't tell us. When you see the person in front of you, communication has a shape. But when you're on the phone, all of those signals I just mentioned disappear. You don't have a face to read or a body to interpret. No visual information of any kind is telling you how the other person is receiving you. And because of this, there's more social uncertainty. When there's a pause on the other end of the line, your brain has nothing to work with. When there's a laugh you weren't expecting, you have no way to tell whether it was warm or cruel. And for a brain that is already hypervigilant about being judged, that social uncertainty creates a ton of worry about how you are going to be received. But here's what makes this even harder. In most social situations, you can use your body to cope. You can smile to mask the fear. You can nod to buy yourself time. You can use your physicality to project a version of yourself that feels more composed than you actually are. But on the phone, that's gone too. All you have is your voice to communicate who you are. And for anyone who's struggled with social anxiety knows, your voice is one of the hardest things that you can control. This is why phone calls are so challenging for people with social anxiety. They strip away social information that is used in day-to-day conversations and leaves you with nothing but a voice to chat with. The most natural response for those with social anxiety is to avoid calling people. Why should you when you're going up against insurmountable social and psychological obstacles? But let me tell you why this is a bad idea. When you avoid a phone call, it might feel relieving at first. But the only reason it feels relieving is because you are confirming an expectation that something bad is going to happen. Imagine it like this. Let's say somebody called you on the phone. Before you even look at the screen, your brain has already decided that the call is a threat. Your heart rate goes up, your palms get sweaty. And in this crucial moment, your brain makes you a very tempting offer. Just don't answer the phone. Let it go to voicemail. And the moment you do, the anxiety lifts. Your body relaxes. But here's the key thing. When you do this, your brain is quietly logging something in the background, that avoiding the phone call kept you safe. So the next time your phone rings, you're more tempted to avoid the phone call because your brain, in the background, is saying that avoidance leads to anxiety relief. This is what psychologists call the avoidance cycle, and it is one of the primary reasons social anxiety lasts as long as it does. Over time, the more and more you avoid the phone calls that provoke anxiety inside of you, the less and less capable you feel to handle them when the task arrives. This is why learning to pick up the phone when somebody calls you is so important. It forces your brain into realizing that you are capable of talking on the phone and you can handle the anxiety yourself. The natural question you might have is, how do I actually do this? How can I learn to speak on the phone when every time I do, it feels like I'm experiencing so much anxiety? The first thing I want you to do before you ever make a phone call is to prepare what you are going to say before you dial. And I don't mean memorizing a speech or writing out a full script. What I just mean is knowing your first 2 sentences and your last one. What this does for your brain is 2 things. The first is that it gives your brain certainty. When you call someone on the phone, you have very little sensory information to go off of. You can't see the person's face or body, and because of this, your brain is left with little information. Having a short sentence or 2 changes this situation entirely, because it gives your brain an anchor to go to when things get confusing or difficult to manage. The second thing it does is give your brain confidence. When you walk into a social situation already knowing what to say or the message you want to convey, you orient your mental energy less on doing things wrong and more on doing things right. When I was struggling with social anxiety, I used this technique all the time. Just writing down something like, "Hi, I'm calling to schedule an appointment," or "Hi, I just had a quick question about my order," was enough to change the calculus of the situation, and I strongly recommend you to do the same. The second thing that I want you to do is to start making phone calls that don't matter. And I mean that literally. Calls where nothing is on the line, the interaction is completely predictable, and the whole thing will be over in under 30 minutes. Call a restaurant to ask what time they close. Call a store to ask if they carry a specific product. Call a business to ask about their hours. These calls are so scripted that there is almost no room for the unpredictable silences and ambiguous reactions that make phone anxiety so unbearable. But here's why this matters beyond just being an easy win. Remember what we talked about earlier, the avoidance loop. Your brain has been building a story for a long time that phone calls are dangerous, that something bad is going to happen. The only way to dismantle that story is to give your brain evidence that it is wrong. And every low-stakes call you complete will help you do exactly this. One call won't change anything, but 10 calls might start to, and 50 calls certainly will. Think of it like building a ladder. Focus on one low-stakes phone call at a time, and with every rung you climb, the next one feels a little less impossible. The third thing that I want you to do is to reset your body before you dial in. This is important because of everything we discussed in the first part of the video. Phone anxiety isn't just a mental experience, it's a physical one. Your amygdala is sending off an alarm before your brain has time to process what is happening. This means no amount of mental preparation fully works if your body is already in threat mode before the call begins. Before you dial in, do this. Stand up, don't make the call sitting down. Stand up, and if you can, walk around slowly while you talk. Your body's stress hormone is designed to move, so giving it physical movement is one of the most direct ways to discharge that stored anxiety. And before you dial in, don't take a deep breath in. Take a long, slow breath out. None of these three things will eliminate your anxiety overnight. But what they will do is give you a way into the calls you've been avoiding. And every call you get using these tools is one more vote cast against the story your anxiety has been telling you. So let's bring this all together. Phone calls are scary for people with social anxiety because they strip away every signal your brain uses to feel safe in social situations. No face to read, no body to hide behind, nothing but your voice going out into a void your brain isn't equipped to handle alone. When this feels like too much, the most natural thing for you to do is to avoid it. But every time you do this, it just confirms the story your anxiety has been telling you all along. That you're incapable, not ready, and will make a fool out of yourself. The way to get yourself out of this is by learning to prepare. Prepare your opening line, make low-stakes calls that don't matter, reset your body before you dial, and let your brain collect the evidence it has never been allowed to gather. One call at a time. And if this video resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button below. I post weekly videos on social anxiety recovery and the psychology of why it feels the way it does. And if you want to go even deeper on what we talked about today, I made a video called What Social Anxiety Actually Is that I think will change the way you understand everything we covered here. It goes into where the fear actually comes from at its root, and once you see it, your whole recovery process starts to look different. That video is linked below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.